So today we're going to take what we've learned about creating logos and apply that to making a logo for our restaurant. And I'm going to work through a couple of examples so you can see how the tools work, but ultimately it'll be up to you to try to recreate the design that you've come up with that matches your idea for your restaurant. First logo I'm going to create today is inspired by the Burger King logo, which I really like. I don't really like Burger King, but I like their logo. It's this really simple logo. It has the words Burger King and it has these shapes that are buns. So Burger King, this is a hamburger, which is their main product. So when you have a logo, you want it to really speak about the type of food that you're going to represent for your restaurant without actually drawing exactly that idea. So you want to keep your logo simple and a nice clean design, and I like Burger King. It uses primary colors, which are good for fast food restaurants. The letters Burger King are in red, which really is eye-catching. So in Gravit, I'm going to File and New Design. I'm going to stick with the paper size of US letter portrait. It doesn't really matter for your design what you choose. If you like landscape better or you want to choose something else, that's fine, but that'll stick with the size that makes sense for what we normally think of as a piece of paper. So I'm going to start like I did with the school logo by grabbing an ellipse, holding down my shift key, and getting a circle. Let's choose a color for that circle. Under fill, I'll choose this orange color. That looks good to me. Select my circle by clicking on it, grab the knife tool, and click and drag. I'll hold down shift key on my keyboard so I get a straight line. I cut that circle in half, and that's where we'll begin. Here I have this black arrow pointer, and when I click on that, I can select each of these. Let's get rid of the bottom one, and we will just work on the top one. I like to work a little bit closer, so holding down Control and hitting plus on my keyboard will zoom me in. I like to round this out so it's a little bit more of a soft bun like the Burger King logo. So what I can do is go to these points that I have in here. To select the individual points, click on the drop down next to the black arrow pointer until you get the sub-select. You can also press D on your keyboard. Now your arrow pointer is white. If I click on this point, it says over here, it tells me what type of joint it is. Right now it's this straight joint. It's a hard corner, and I want it to be more like an asymmetric joint. If I do that, let's see if I'll get that other handlebar. Let's try that again. Let's try clicking on this guy. There you go. I'm going to do mirrored, and it's going to give me handlebars on both sides. Click over here to this one, do the same thing. Click on that mirrored. I get these handlebars allow me to manipulate. Now it looks like here I have an extra point. I'm going to get rid of that point right there. If I click on my pin tool, which is really, it says path there, and if I come over and I click on an existing anchor point, you'll notice it becomes a pin minus, and if I click, I get rid of that. If I click on an area here, I get a pin plus, and I can add a point. So I've got the points that I want in the way that I want. Now, of course, I could have just drawn that with the pin tool, and that's fine as well. Using this sub-select tool, I can move these points around the way that I want to get my burger bun. I feel like that's a little bit better. Maybe these handlebars can be drug out a little bit more up at the top. And this is the sort of thing where you can spend a lot of time playing around. Once you get this idea how you want that to look. I want to add a little bit to this to give it a little teardrop here to give it a little bit of three-dimension or shine. I'm going to grab my path tool for that and just going to simply click and then click and drag to get a curve. I'm going to come back toward that point, but click and drag a little bit more and then click. I do not want strokes on my shapes for the most part. It's going to look better making your logo with just fills. Now right now I'm having a hard time grabbing that shape, but if I look over my layers, you'll see it's listed here. I can click on path. Now I have that shape. I'm just going to click on the eyeball next to borders and turn that off. That's not exactly the way I want it, but I can make changes to that if I want. Again, with my white arrow pointer, clicking on here, I could move that point around and adjust this, and we can fiddle around with this all day to get exactly the way that you want, but I just want to give you the basics today of how that works. All right, let me grab my pointer now, and that looks pretty good for me for what I want to do. So I'm going to grab some text, and I'm going to type home row, Mr. Peas. Let's highlight that by hitting Control A, and I'm going to choose a pretty thick font because it's going to be my burger. I like this Passion one that they have in here, and I can crank that up a little bit in size. Now, if I want to manipulate that a little bit more, if I click on this Convert to Path, it's now a shape. Now as I resize this, it resizes like that. Just remember, once you do that, you're not going to be able to manipulate it with the type tool anymore. Let's bring that in just a little bit. All right. And let's make the bottom button. And to do that, I'm going to start with a rectangle. Come up to my shape tool and grab a rectangle. Now I want that to be the same color as my bun. You see on my fill here, there's a little dropper. If I click on the dropper, I can now shows me what I'm on, and I want that color. If I click, it'll turn into that color. If I grab my sub-select tool, on my rectangle, I get these little dots, and if I click and drag on those, it curves the inside. Illustrator does this exact same thing. You know, for me, it's a nice, simple shape. I don't need to do anything more with that. I feel like my top bun's awful big. I'm going to select both of these. Let me grab my black arrow pointer again. Select both of these by clicking and dragging. Click on my group tool here so they stay together. And now as I shape this down, I feel like that needs to be a little bit smaller, like that. All right, so now when I'm scaling this, it'll give me a line here to show, see that line that pops up that shows me it's on the same edge, even with my top bun, which I want it to be. Like all those to be lined up nice and neat here. So get that all lined up. Yeah. And that's a good start for that. I can add another tagline down here. Maybe I put burgers and fries. I can add some more detail to that, but that's the basic idea. Let's select all of this together and group it. And I'm just going to scale this way down and move this up sort of the top of my work area. I'll leave that there as I start to work on the next logo. I want to do a little coffee shop logo for you. And here is the basic idea. I want to make this coffee cup, some steam coming out of it. So let's come back, and I'm going to start here with a circle to make my coffee cup. Now I want a color that sort of like looks like coffee. There's not really anything in here. Let me choose that orange again. If I go a little bit farther into the black, I can get some browns in here. That looks pretty good. All right, so let's use what we've learned before. Here's my white arrow pointer. I have some points in here that I can manipulate. I'm going to convert this to a shape here, or a path. Click on this little convert to path. I get those little, as if I drew it with the pen tool. And I'm going to grab this path. I'm going to click on this point, and I'm just going to click on it again and remove it. And you know, right away, that looks pretty close to being what I want. I can manipulate these points if I want. Let's see if I can click on here. Yeah. Now, if I want my coffee cup to be a little wider, a little narrower, resize that a little bit. But for the sake of time, let's get going. So let's grab another ellipse here and draw that out. That's going to be actually what's in the cup. I want that to be white. And you can't, oh, I can't see it now, but it's there. Bring it down into here. Good. And you can see, though, I'd like to see the rim of that match up a little bit more. So let me zoom in, Control plus, and I might come in here with my white arrow pointer and manipulate these points a little bit more to match up to that curve. Get that the way I want. All right, not too bad. Let's add a handle to this. I'm going to do that by drawing an ellipse again. Okay, I'll use that same technique. I'll click on the eyedropper to copy that brown color. And let's grab, I'm just going to actually copy and paste this ellipse. Bring that down into here. When you paste, you'll notice that it puts it right on top of the other one. All right, let's get that on top. You notice how that is not in the right order. Up here, you can see I can bring that forward. There, it's over top of that, and that is going to make a handle for me, just like that. What I will do with this is I could just group this together and bring it up here, but what happens is you're going to see that circle is going to be visible. I really want to cut a hole in here, and to do that, I come up here to where I create a compound shape, click on the drop down, and I want to choose subtract. Now, I actually have a hole. You see how that's empty in there now. And if I rotate this off to the side, maybe shrink it down a little bit, I'm going to get a handle for my coffee cup, just like that. All right, let's make the steam. I'm just going to use my pen tool for that. I'll click, drag, click, drag, click. Let's come back. Let's give that some thickness to it. All right, now again, we don't want borders. I want this to have a light gray to it. I don't want it to have a border, so we'll hide that. And that's not too bad, you know. I'm trying to draw here. I'm going to press enter and delete that. I can make another one of those or use the power of copy and paste, Control C, Control V. It's there. I can shrink this down, manipulate it. Maybe this one should be up here. And Control V again. That. And I can manipulate these things all day long to get it the way that I want. If I want to have a little transparency here so I can still see, like make it more like steam, over here there's this thing called opacity. 100% is completely solid, 0 is completely clear. I can go somewhere in the middle and see that you can see some of my coffee cup now as that steam is there. Okay, so that's the basis for my logo. Let me Control minus back out a little bit. I might want to put this inside of a circle. Like such. Give this like a gray color. I'm going to need to take this and send it backward. Yeah, let's send it all the way back. Let's keep clicking on that. There we go. It's behind here. I kind of like the steam coming out of the coffee cup a little bit. Oop. Undo is Control Z. All right. Zoom out a little bit here. I'm going to put some text on the circle. So I'm going to actually copy and paste the circle. There's another one. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to put some text on that circle. Remember how we did this yesterday? I just click on the T and come down, make it work on the edge where it goes red. I'm going to say Mr. P's. It's going to be my restaurant. Select that. Probably need more of a coffee shop font. That'll work. Something big. 72 is 1 inch high. Remember that little orange square there? We'll arrange that on there. I don't really need to see the fill of that. You see here. Just really want the fill of the other one. Mr. P's Coffee and Teas. I'm going to leave it there. Last thing I want to talk about today, I'm going to actually get rid of the burger for now. I'll delete that, is how to get it saved. I can go up to File. I would not worry about saving right now. You could save it to your computer if you wanted to, but really what you want to do is export. And you can export this as a PNG, and it will show up down here It should be in your download.